zibonakalise uNkulunkulu othembekileyo. Siyabonga ukwazi ukuthi umusa wakho liqiniso. Sibonga ukwazi ukuthi uthembekile kuthina. Malikayise nendodana nomoya ocwebileyo. Amen. I'm not sure if siyakwazi ukutholana in these social platforms. Just indicate if the network is clear. Just let me just wait for an indication if it is clear. Kubantu, just send me a message ukuthi siyabonana, siyazwana, if everything is going well. Please just somebody help us with that information, please. If somebody can just give us that information, I will highly appreciate. Uma kukhona ongangitshela ukuthi siyazwana, yonke into ihamba kahle. I'm waiting for that. Okay, let's see, whom do we have around? Just welcoming those who are joining us from wherever you are. Siyanamukela, if somebody can just, okay, Nobile says it is clear. Okay, another confirmation. Another confirmation can says it is clear. You can hear us. We are going live on Facebook. For the T Inspirational Thought. We are also, okay, Mangobo, thank you there, Mangobo, for saying it is clear, or what it's audible as well. Okay, how about Facebook and YouTube? I hope also Nalapo things are coming okay. Somebody can, in those platforms, if somebody can then indicate and show us that. Siyabonga, simlindile Dlamini uthi siyakuzwa, siyakubona. Okay, we can hear you, Father. Thank you there. Si Melo kuhle, siyabonga kakhulu. Okay, today topic engifuna ukukhuluma ngayo engifisa ukuba ngikhulume ngayo. Thank you there. Nomcebo Mchunu, in Durban, it is clear. In YouTube, thank you. Okay, we can then move on. A program engifisa, or topic rather, engifisa ukuba sithi ukuyibuka kancane namhlanje. What do I mean when I talk about emotional intelligence? For me, emotional intelligence refers to the ability to recognize, to understand, and to manage effectively the use of one's emotions. Ukuthi ngiwasimisa kanjani ama-emotions awangicontrol yini and ngirelate kanjani nabanye abantu. Omunye umuntu yakhe, and so it becomes a little bit difficult how they relate to people and how they respond to situations. And so there are arguments that I'm trying to say, Uguchi, there are skills that one can learn, that one can use in dealing with other people, in what I call interpersonal relationships. How do I deal with other people? And so the topic here too, it's going to give us what I call skills. What are the necessary skills that one can use so that I can use and I can relate with people in a most effective manner. Thank you there, Nosipo Kumalo. Everything is clear as well now. Facebook. Okay, so the first thing in dealing with emotional intelligence, what is the first point that I would like to point out? So the first one is self-awareness. And so I'm talking about the concept of self-awareness. That's the first thing for me that stands out. And what do I mean by self-awareness? I think one of the greatest things I learned in life was to become aware of my feelings. What am I feeling? How do I feel? That is important. Become aware of yourself as a person. Become aware of how you feel as a person. So when I talk about self-awareness, your own emotions, the answer that I've come to realize, a person's emotions changes. You know, 1 minute they are happy, the next minute they are sad, the other minute they are upset, the next minute they are promising you all the world. But regularly reflect. I always talk about checking in. checking and trying to find the pulse. So regularly reflect on your emotions and the ability to identify them. I've come to realize a great number of people struggle with identifying their emotions. They act in a particular way, but they struggle to identify it. They struggle to name it. They struggle to say, feeling numb, I'm feeling upset, I'm feeling happy, hurt. Be able to identify what exactly am I feeling. And so me not John, I sit with myself every day in the morning. I sit down and I ask myself, okay, Tembelani, how do you feel? If kukhona into anytime during the day and I just check in, okay, how am I feeling? What's going on? Why am I reacting this way? And then I ask myself, how do I feel? You feel like Anjan. And I allow myself to feel. And so I sit or I walk, but I pause. I take time out and I sit and I try to identify. Kumina, it is important to feel, to identify how am I feeling. But also it is important to understand what am I feeling. It is important to understand without making a judgment. Because I find sometimes it is so easy for us to make a judgment. But a judgment is a way out. Don't judge. First, understand how you feel. Do not make a moral judgment. It is right, it is wrong. No. In any case, feelings are neither right nor wrong. They are just feelings. How do I feel is crucial. Identify it, try and understand how I am feeling. And for me, it is important. And in trying to do that, do not make a judgment. The other thing that I also try and do is to keep a journal or to track my emotional pattern and triggers. If ngekule situation, I tend to feel like this. If when Zekugut, I tend to feel like this. That is talking about being aware. I'm self-aware. I'm then aware of, I know the pattern, I understand, and I know what's going on. So the first and the most important point for me is self-awareness. The second point for me that I also find interesting is active listening. Don't forget, dear friends, namhlanje ngifisa ukuba sibuke strategies to help us develop emotional intelligence. How do I relate to people? How do I show or respond to my own feelings, to my own emotions? And so the second part for me is active listening. Sometimes we think listening is easy. I don't think so. I think listening is a skill. Active listening, it's even difficult. It's more difficult. Why am I arguing and I'm saying that? Because it means it needs my full attention. I focus on others when they speak. Go back to what I keep on saying about my professor Paul Beret. Always seek to understand. Listen without trying to give an answer. Listening without interpretation. Listening without interruption. Listening without formulating an answer. Let me actively listen. When last did you try and just let me listen? Let me try and understand ukuthi usbanbani uthini. Yes, most of the time, a lot of meanings and words and wisdom are lost because we are upset, we are angry, we are not listening. And so it sometimes takes a third person to say, let me just listen to what they're talking about. And mainly that's what a mediator does. He just sits and he listens, and he listens, and he listens, and he's not waiting to give an answer. He's not waiting to interrupt. He just wants to understand. And that for me, it's active listening. I'm focusing on you right now. Ukuthi yikuphi okushoyo. It's not about me. It's not about how I feel. It's about me trying to give you the space, the time, the respect that you deserve by listening to you. I don't want to interrupt you. I don't want to formulate an answer. I just want to listen to get you. And I think if we can do that, then you soon realize that person gets me. That person understands me. And uzobona khona abanye abantu who have a great gift that if you are in front of them, they focus on you. They listen to you. Khona amanye ama friends who are like that. You will think you are their only best friend. Meanwhile, maybe no 3, no 4, no 5 empilweni yakhe. Kodwa uma unaye, that person makes you feel ukuthi you are the most important person in their life. I mean, Bishop Barry Wood had that gift. You know, Bishop Barry Wood, we all thought we were his favorites. You know, if he was with you and he gave you the attention you needed. If he was with someone else, he gave that person the attention they needed. And so you soon realize that person is interested in me. That person is taking time to listen and to understand. The third part for me, empathy. Empathy. Put yourself in someone else's shoes. What is it that they are going through? My intention is to understand their point of view. I'm trying to understand their perspective. And in trying to listening, that's what we want to do. I'm entering into your situation. That's what empathy is all about. Trying to enter into your situation with the hope of seeing from your perspective. Now, u6 no 9. Ubukeka u6 from my point of view. Ubukeka u9 from your point of view. If I'm willing to stand into your shoes, if I'm willing to see your perspective, then I'm willing to understand. Hence, people, ubezwa bethi, we need to be asking open-ended questions to explore the other people's feelings, their experiences, not because we want to judge them, but rather sifuna ukwazi kwenzakalani empilweni zabo. Point number 4 for me, regulation of emotions. This is important. Develop healthy coping mechanism for stress and frustration. Tandazami, we all go through difficulties. We go through stress, we go through frustrations, we go through hurt, we go through a lot. How do I deal with that? We all need healthy coping mechanisms. We all have coping mechanisms. That's why, for me, the operative word ukuthi ekudileni kwami nezinto angagcini senginezitha, ekudileni kwami nezinto angagcini sengilimaza abantu abaningi, ekudileni kwami nezitha angagcini sengenza situation worse. And hence I talk about regulation of emotion. How do I create, develop a healthy coping mechanism? One of the other things that I do, I take a deep breath. And as I take a deep breath, then I walk it off. I try to get time alone with myself, and I try to deal with my situations wherever I am, and whatever I'm going through. And the other thing that also help is to practice mindfulness. Engage in activities that bring you joy. Those are two important things. Be mindful of what you say. Be mindful of how other people feel. But also at the same time, do something that makes you happy. If you know that you're stressed, if you know that you're frustrated, if you know that you're unhappy, one of the most beautiful coping mechanisms is to do that which makes you happy. Take time out if I have to. And if I need to walk away. I need to find a way in which I can deal with myself and the things that I'm going through. Once again, igama lami nginguFather Thembelani Wakwangcobo. I am a parish priest, a Catholic priest in the Archdiocese of Durban, a parish priest in Sacred Heart Montclair. Kumnandi ukuba nani. Namhlanje we are talking about emotional intelligence. How do we deal with each other, and how do we work through our emotions? Laba who are able to be with us and who are sending invites and inviting different people to come and join us in this live. Thank you for those who are joining us for the first time. Please do like, do subscribe, do follow, and do share this live. Once again, Gibonga Nalaba who are sending us gifts. Thank you for sending us your gifts, and thank you for being with us. We are talking and sekuluma emotional intelligence. Enye into engifisa ukuya kuyona point number 5, social skills. What do I mean by social skills? I said we need to work effectively on our communication and conflict resolutions. Asiphili sodwa, siphila nabantu. And so we need what I call effective communication and conflict skills. How do I communicate? By what I say with my mouth, by what I say non-verbally. Social skills are important. Umuntu ukhuluma ngeindlela eziningi. How do we deal with a conflict? How do we deal with stress? How do we deal with pressure? How do we deal nabanye abantu abacabanga differently? Akusiye wonke umuntu oyohlezi ecabanga njengathi. Akusiye wonke umuntu oyohlezi evumelana nathi. Kwesinye isikhathi I'm going to be wrong. Kwesinye isikhathi they are going to be wrong. I'm going to be right. But then how do I put my point across without offending abanye abantu? Khona abanye abantu abathi ayi anginendaba mina, noma ungangithanda noma ungangizonda, vela ungikhokheli, vela ngihlala ikini, vela. But that's not how we were brought up. That's not how we talk to other people. Inkinga thandwa zami siphila nabanye abantu, asiphili sodwa. And so one needs to learn how to have effective communication, but also conflict resolution. Yes, I also think we need to practice what I call assertiveness. Be able to express yourself clearly, but also to seek common ground in disagreements. These are 3 important things. The first one, be assertive. Do not allow people to abuse you, to bully you, to walk all over you. And when ube umata idomet, no. Emotional intelligence also demands and forces us to be assertive, to stand up for that which is right, to stand up for the truth, but also to express ourselves, how we feel, what's going on. There's nothing wrong with expressing yourself ukuthi angiyithandi lento eyenzayo, angivumelani nalento eyenzayo. That's okay. It doesn't mean we are fighting. It doesn't mean we are enemies. It just means we are disagreeing. But also there are times when we need to find common ground, because sometimes I need to compromise. Now you also need to compromise. And so, excuse me, we find a way of working around the problem. In most cases, la kune conflict khona, la kune evame ukusiza, are people who are still willing to work at it. Are people who it is worth pursuing. Point number 6 that I also think it is important, I call it continuous learning. Point number 6 for me are continuous learning. Regularly seek feedback on your emotional intelligence. Ask people that you trust. Ask people that their opinion matters. People who are going to be honest. Abazokutshela, ozobalalela, and ask them for a feedback. Ask them to tell you about your emotional intelligence and be open to improvement. What they suggest, think about it, digest it, and if it needs to be worked on, be open to it. Nobody is perfect. But the other thing that is also helpful, read literature on emotional intelligence. Attend workshops, enhance your skills. We're not going to get it all together, but sometimes we need to ask people who know. We need to ask people who've written about this, who've studied this, who have skills, who've got tests, who can help us to deal with this. Okay, Undumi has a point that I would like to look into. Okay, now let me try and understand what Undumi is talking about here. Undumi says, my trick is not to answer my phone and call the person later when I have prepared my... Okay, so Undumi says, I think when Undumi is upset, instead of ukuthi adile nalowo muntu there and there, Undumi will rather not answer and talk to that person while Esa try to work out an answer. Then I'm presuming when Undumi is calmed, then Undumi will then phone that person and then they are able to talk to that thing. That also helps. I call that delaying tactic, where it allows us. I learned that from an old friend of mine, a priest, who says, just give me time to think about this. I'll come back to you. And sometimes if you're having an argument, a conversation with someone that is not necessarily healthy, and you see that, maybe the best thing to say is, can we just hold on for now? Let me go and cool off, and you also go and cool off. And when we have gathered ourselves, we'll come back again and we'll be able to talk about it. I respect you, you respect me. And because in a heated argument, we are most likely to say things we don't mean. We are most likely to exaggerate. We are most likely to fight for the sake of fighting. So pulling back, and sometimes it helps in dealing with things like that. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I hear what Undumi was saying there. Then Omushle Mbili says, how are we? Omushle Mbili says something. How are we supposed to deal with the emotional effect of the of the damage? Okay, how are we supposed to deal with the emotional effect of the damage that remains after forgiving the offender? Yeah. Okay, I think something there. Okay, dear friends, I'm back. I'm back on. Okay, I'm back there. That's a bit difficult. How are we going to deal with the damage that is left behind? That has to do with healing for me, Omushle. I need to deal with healing. I need to pray for healing. I need to make peace with what has happened in Yami. I feel that is important to deal with that, because unless I deal with that, I don't think I'll be able to work with it. I think for me that is the most important thing, is to try and forgive my, well, try and forgive the hurt I've gone through, and the harm they've caused me, and try and work with myself. Ginga Gingabi victim of the leftovers, ngingabi victim of ubuhlungu abenze kumina. If I'm not answering you there, Omuhle, please come back and then sizoyibuka siphinde sikhulume ngayo. Uvuyo says, social skills, as you explained, Father, can be difficult in working environment. And thank you for the insight information. Yeah, I think I agree. It's not easy. I think it's not easy. That's why it's a skill that one needs to work on, and it's something that one needs to deal with. What Uvuyo is raising, it's something that one needs to work on every day. What Omuhle was talking about is exactly what Upumi is also talking about. Sometimes we need to accept and acknowledge Uguti, we are dealing with something which is a little bit difficult. Sometimes it's not as easy as one would like it to be. It's a painful experience, and Upumi says, how do we then deal with painful past? Yeah, that's another topic that one will need to talk about. How do we deal with forgiving our past? It's another important topic that one needs to. How do we deal with healing of our memories? We don't forget. We forgive, but we don't forget, because it's there. And then, how do we deal with the things that keep on creeping up from the past? That's a topic for another day. But it's a huge challenge for me. Excuse me, and I acknowledge it as well. Tay. Okay, Tay has a question of the topic. You can pick it up. Maybe, Tay, when I'm doing the questionnaires, you can raise that towards the end, and I'll try and answer that, please, if you don't mind. And then I'll try and look at your question there, Tay. Okay. Okay, Umatsepo from Matatiela, they were having some problem from Matatiela, they were having some problem with the network. I hope that's going to be sorted out soon. Okay, let me then move on, dear friends. I was talking about continuous learning. Let me then move to point number 7. In continuous learning, I was saying we need to regularly get our feedbacks, as well as we also need to try and read more and equip more, keep ourselves more, and how to grow in this thing. Point number 7: manage stress. Stress is always going to be there. We need to manage the stress. Develop a personalized stretch management plan. Incorporate activities like exercise, meditation, or hobbies to maintain your emotional balance. We are always going to be stressed. There's something in life that is going to make you upset. There's something in life that is going to make you stressed. And so we just have to accept that. But then, how do we manage it? You've got to find ways, and each person is unique. Abanye abantu, they find it by talking about it. Abanye abantu deal with it by having an exercise. Abanye abantu, they do yoga. Abanye abantu, they do meditation. Abanye abantu, they vent. So find a way of dealing with stress, manage it, go back to the point I'd spoken about, have healthy coping mechanisms. For me, I think those are things that are also important. They help us as we try and grow. Okay. Okay, Pumi also has an interesting statement. Pumi talks about my past has created a tall bridge between me and God. Okay, that's an interesting one, Pumi. It will be interesting. Maybe text me on the side, then we can talk about that. Then I will try and fully understand. But please do text me on the side, then we can talk about that later on, if that's okay. Palana Ratedi also has an interesting comment. A difficult incident for me is that I was brave. It was when I was confronting a person who hurt me and they still lied to me. That's true. That can happen. You can confront a person and you probably want to make peace. You probably want to deal with the situation, and maybe the person is not ready, and the person is not willing to talk about it, and the hurts just get worse and worse and worse. And maybe that's another question: how do I forgive someone who has not asked for forgiveness? How do I forgive someone who constantly lied to me? How do I forgive someone who is a reminder of my terrible past? That's probably another topic. How do I forgive while I'm still hurting? And yeah, maybe that's a topic for another day that we can look into. Tim, if you can just write those topics, and so when we look at them, then we can develop them. Yeah, acknowledge what you just said there, Pumi. I acknowledge that. We will talk about that. Okay, thank you for that. We'll talk about that. I acknowledge that. Okay, dear friends. And so I say, manage your stress. Find something that can help you to deal with stress. Is stress going away? No, it's not going to go away. It's going to remain with us for the longest of time. We found it here. We're going to leave it here. But how do I deal with it? That is important to us. Point number 8: cultivate positive relationships. I think that is always helpful. Surround yourself with supportive individuals. Surround yourself not with people who lie to you, not with people who don't tell you the truth. We're not going to disagree. Being supportive doesn't mean you're not going to fight, but being supportive means I'm at your corner. I'm here with you. I'll celebrate your wins. I'll celebrate your success. And when you go off, I'll tell you the truth. And I expect you to do the same for me. It means I love you enough to tell you the truth. And I love you enough that I hope you will also tell me the truth. So surround yourself with supportive individuals. Build connections based on trust, on respect, and genuine interest in others. You know, there's nothing as painful than having someone who is only interested in you because of what they can get out of you. Labo bantu abakuthandi, bathanda izinto obenzela zona. Labo bantu abanendaba nawe. Labo bantu abafune lutho kuwena, bafuna ukukuyuza. And so I find this important. Surround yourself with people who genuinely love you, people who genuinely care for your well being, people that you will do the same. So these are supportive friends. These are people who can challenge you, they can cheer you, and they can criticize you. Those are important C's. Challenge you, criticize, and celebrate and care for you. They can do that. And you're hoping they can do the same to you. Then also, point number 9: mindful decision making. Mindful decision making. Before making decisions, consider the emotional impact on yourself and others. How is the other person going to feel? Yazi kwesinye isikhathi khona omunye umuntu athi hayi ngizomgiva mina nginendaba naye, ngizomtshela nje ngigcine la ngifuna ukugcina khona, and we forget ukuthi umuntu naye. How am I going to feel about this? How am I going to feel about this tomorrow when I'm no longer angry? How am I going to feel about this next week when I'm no longer upset? And the other person, how will they feel? And so one needs to make a decision, but also consider the emotional impact on yourself and others. Evaluate potential outcomes and choose responses that align with your values. Imagine sekuthiwa usibanibani wenza ukuthi usibanibani uthe, and the excuse that we often say, oh, forgive me, I was angry, oh, I was upset, I didn't mean to say that. Well, before making decisions, it is always helpful, think about the impact. How is this going to impact negatively of someone else? Okay. The last point, and then I will go to questions and comments. The last point is reflect on experiences. After an emotional situation, analyze your reactions. How did I behave? I went below the belt. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have said that. That was not necessary. And I'm very critical of that. When I sit down with myself and I say, okay, conversation go. That wasn't necessary. I didn't have to say that. I didn't have to do it that way. I could have dealt with that differently. And so that is important. Sometimes one needs to reflect a little bit deeper. Was that the best way? Was there no other way of dealing with this issue? And I think one needs to be honest with themselves. I mean, the truth of the matter here is I don't need to lie to myself. I just need to be honest. And I just need to say, is this necessary? The way I'm doing it, the way I'm talking about it, could I have done it differently? Because I mean, truth be told, sometimes we over exaggerate. We do things that we wouldn't do. We say things that we shouldn't be saying, and we realize it was not worth it. And then we sit with guilt. And now, because snale guilt to numb the pain, and we lie to ourselves, and so we perpetuate the situation. So always consider alternative responses. Learn from both successes as well as challenges and failures. And as we learn from them, then we try and say, how will I deal with it next time? How will I go through this and try and find something else that might be better instead of trying to destroy myself? For me, that is already an emotional intelligence, because I'm now saying, I know this didn't work. Let me then do something better. Those are the 10 points, dear friends, I wanted us to talk about strategies that help us to deal with emotional intelligence. Let me just recap and give you those points. First one was self-awareness. That was the first one, self-awareness. Second one was active listening, followed by empathy. Then it was regulation of emotions. Then it was social skills. Then followed by continuous learning. Then there was manage stress. Then cultivate positive relationships. Then it was followed by mindful decision making. Then the last one was reflect on your experiences. Okay, what are your comments? What are your questions? Let us talk. What do you think about emotional intelligence? King Ethanol from Swaziland, Eswatini, Parish St. Peter and Paul. Welcome, the King Ethanol. It is good to have you around. Grace also has a comment, or rather a question. How do you deal with family members who are always negative? You cannot but love them because they're family, but you don't have to listen to them. Well, at least that's what I do. I love you, but I don't have to listen to what you're saying, because if you're always negative, I avoid you. I love you from a distance. That's the word for me. I love you from a distance because my peace is important. Kufana nomuntu who's always negative, I can't. Who's toxic, I can't. I just decide to go to no. This is not for me. This is not helping me. So I'm not going to do this. And then I just walk away. Uh, I hope I'm answering you there, Grace. We also welcome Marina Masalela from Mozambique. Welcome. Thank you for joining us in this live. And I'd like to welcome each and every one of you, wherever you are in the world. You're welcome. It is good to have you around here. My name is Father Tembelani Ngobo. I'm a Catholic priest in the Archdiocese of Durban. Thank you for being here with us. And I really, really, really appreciate that you are here with us. Let me just put this. Just 1 second, dear friends. We are trying to. I hope this works. Yeah, it does. Okay, so yeah, thank you for being with us and joining us there. We were then trying to see what else do we have. Let me just see. There was a comment there. Okay, Marina there. Okay, uNkulunkulu ngathi angaba nawe busis. Thank you for ukuba usijoyine. Aya future then also it is also difficult to deal with someone who's always complaining. They're negative and they're always complaining. How do you deal with those people? I always say they can't change and they refuse to change and they're old enough. I love them from a distance and I try and move on, and I then deal with impilo yam and see what I can do. Shilako, let me no. Shila, let me just try and Ngwakwana, I think that's how you say your name. If not, please forgive me. How do you deal with workplace toxicity? Oh my word, toxic workplace. I believe it is important to pray for your work environment. Work can be very toxic. Pray for your work environment. Ask the Lord to cover you. Ask the Lord to cover you. That your work environment does not kill you. I mean that. I mean that. The workplaces can be toxic. Just ask the Lord to give you grace, and ask the Lord when the time is right to remove you. Do not suffer unnecessarily. Okay. Chris Nell, good. How do I deal with explosive response? Talk. Some are willing to look at their lives. Some you can help. Some you may not be able to help. Some you can tolerate. Some it may not be possible. And unfortunately, then you have to protect your peace. You have to protect yourself. You have to love them from a distance. So you avoid them when you can. Jabu Sole also has a comment, beautiful comment. Traumatic events can lead to difficulties in understanding and managing emotions. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. It can. I agree with you. But we should not remain victims. While we acknowledge that traumatic experiences can lead us to difficulties in understanding and managing our emotions, do not be a victim. Excuse me. We all have gone through issues, either childhood memories or things that happened to us when we are adults. But I refuse, Mina, to be a victim of that. I keep on saying, dear friends, I used to be a very angry person until I realized it's not helping me. Uyaphi, uzobuya nobani? And then I decided, I'm going to work on myself. Okay, let me just go back. There was some point. Ufiki there has a point. Mina, I prefer to be quiet and focus on myself because really we live in a cruel world. Yeah, and I will talk about focusing on oneself in as much as one is talking about, let me build myself. You know, myself, uh, looking after myself is important. Uh, my mental health is important. Then I'm going to try and not destroy myself in the process. I'm going to try and be as honest as I can with myself. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, let me find something that can work for me, especially dealing with other people. What I've always learned, dear friends, is that I cannot change the other person. I can only change me. I can only change myself. I can only change how I do things, how I react, how I respond. The other person, I have absolutely no control over them. Joy, sorry for Joy. Joy says, yeah, workplace was so toxic. She had to resign because it was too much. Sometimes choosing yourself is the best way. And unfortunately, I know friends who resigned, not because they had a better job offer, they had nothing. And when I asked them why did you resign, they said, no, I cannot continue to stay in that place without losing myself in the process. And that is talking about, for that person, it was taking care of themselves. It says, my mental health is far more important than to continue to live in a place that I knew it was destroying me bit by bit. Aya Future says, Father, emotional intelligence is easier in theory. Yo, practicing it is hard. Uh, I agree, it is hard. Like any other thing that is worth, is hard. We work at it. We work at ourselves. I often say, let me work at myself. Yes, it's not going to be easy. But in any case, we don't necessarily grow in our comfort zones. So I make difficult decisions and I work with them because I need to come out a winner, not a victim, not a participant. So yeah, it is going to be difficult. Noxolo Zwane, siyabonga for the team ngokudla kwengqondo, speaking up on how a person of authority makes you feel can be a challenge if the person is not mature enough. Yes, sometimes people in authority can abuse their power. Yeah, sometimes we abuse our powers unnecessarily, and so sometimes we need good friends who are going to tell us, but you're missing it, and I always believe that no matter how powerful you are, you need someone sabai. You need someone who's able to tell you you are wrong. Don't do that. It is not good for you. And so I think, yeah, that's something that. Okay, let me just come back to this. Okay, Tay had asked me to ask, had asked for a question which was of this topic. So Tay says, I have issues regarding, okay, I have issues with my parents regarding race in my relationships. They refuse to accept anyone of any other race and cover up by saying, what do they say, Tay? The Bible says, oh, okay, let me go back to that one. Okay, so they refuse. So they refuse you to be in a relationship with anyone of a different race, and they use the Bible. I say the Bible say you should be with one of your own. No, that's not. I disagree with what the parents are saying. Tay. Uh, no, I disagree. You can be with anyone that you love. Um, I've heard people using that can't saying the Bible says that. I think they are misunderstanding or misreading what was being dealt with in a text, whatever they're quoting. No, that's not what. We are all created by God. We are all children of God. You know, one of the most beautiful things is that if you cut a person, whether they're black, they're brown, they're pink, they're yellow, they're white, they're blue, they're green, their blood is red. You know, when I'm getting a blood transfusion, I can get it from anyone else so long as their blood type is the same as mine. So I find that the issues that they bring it's not always true, and sometimes parents do things like that because they're scared or whatever reason. No, but Tay, from from my side as a Catholic priest, as a person, I disagree. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. I disagree with what they're saying. It's not biblical. It's not true. Okay. Okay. Let me try and find something else. I hope I've answered you there, Tay. But maybe one day we should be talking about that as a topic that is worth looking into. Okay. Nelokuhle, how do you deal with someone ongaboniseki when you try ukumbonisa uyadinwa and stop talking to you? Yeah, there will always be people like that. Ababoniswa, abafuna ukutshelwa. They are always right. And yeah, uyazama ukukhuluma naye menqaba, then akukho okuningi ongakwenza. Mina, I always say you can take a horse to the river, but you can't force it to drink. And so, mengafuna ukuboniseka, what can you do? What can you say? There's nothing much that one can do. Okay. Then there was, okay. Then Tay, maybe talk to someone that you you respect their opinion, and hopefully have a conversation with your parents. For example, if you were around, then you could come and talk to me with your parents, and we could talk about it and try and make sense and understand. Because I want to presume that they genuinely are trying to follow the scriptures, and so I will then want to sit with them and deal with the scriptures and the text as it is. So yeah, but as far as I can argue, there is nothing wrong with marrying someone outside own family. I've got someone who's married to someone out the race, and I know with the kids and everybody else, they are open to it. They have done it, and they will continue to do it. I have friends who have interracial relationships and marriages, and there's nothing wrong with that. So, Nana, thank you very much, and also God's blessing upon you. Okay, let me try and see other question. Okay, Cindy, thanks, Father Chi, for answering the workplace toxicity. Yes, it is too difficult and unbearable when you are in a foreign country. Yeah, it is, absolutely. It is. Yeah, we've experienced that. Just walk away and pray for it and just walk away, and the Lord will help you. I always say people who are toxic and who either it's race or language or culture or whatever. They treat you badly because of that, because they lack full understanding. They just don't understand. They don't get the truth. And most of them are insecure in themselves. Yeah, mainly. Unozipho, how do you deal with a leader who is always right and everyone else is always wrong? Wingo's umuntu onjalo. I hope they are right, but you cannot always be right, whether a leader or no leader, whether a parent or no parent. You cannot always be right. So sometimes uyamsiza umuntu ofuna ukusizakala, ongafuna ukusizakala, unfortunately, there's nothing much that, and hoping ukuthi khona umngani okwazi ukumtshela amaqiniso. Uneli says, loving from a distance, thank you, Father, for assurance. I thought I was overreacting. No, it works for me. It works for me. Just love from a distance. Yeah, not all. Yeah, workplace can be toxic. It is a killer. I agree with you, because you are dependent on a living. But sometimes you just need to make decisions and pray that the Lord locates you somewhere else where life might be a little bit better than what you are going through at the moment. Okay. Let me see if there's something else there. Okay. Elizabeth, yeah. Sometimes we can go through those things. Elizabeth says, Father, please advise. What do I do when my own sister turns her back in church? Yeah, sometimes maybe I guess during the sign of peace. Yeah, that means there are issues that are going on there, and yeah, sometimes we do go through issues like that. Find someone. I will go to a priest and say, please try and help us, and also try and talk with my sister there and try and find what is the problem. But I'm not necessarily interested in the problem. I'm interested in finding a solution. How can we work together and how can we heal each other? Presumably that we are both hurting in one way or the other. Okay, those are some of the questions and comments that we have received, dear friends. Ngiyabonga. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of this live. And I ask you that you do please follow, you do like, and you also then share these lives, and everything else that we are doing. uNkulunkulu abe nani anibusise. Let us pray. uNkulunkulu somandla ekusebeni Nkosi yethu uJesu Kristu, mqalisi nomphelelisi wezinto zonke. Onendoda yamadoda, owuNkulunkulu ophilayo, owuNkulunkulu osizayo. Ngiyakhuleka kuwena Jehova namandla, ngiyakhuleka kuwena Nkulunkulu nomusa. Khulekela abafowethu nodadewethu kuzo zonke iy'nkinga ababhekene nazo. Inzima Nkulunkulu somandla impilo yokuphilisana nabanye abantu. Inzima ngoba silimele salimazana. Ngiyakhuleka Nkulunkulu wethu engathi ungasithoba amanxeba. Ngiyakhuleka Nkulunkulu wethu engathi ungahamba nathi endleleni. Ngiyakhuleka Nkulunkulu wethu engathi ungazivikela kukho konke. Ngiyakhuleka kuwena Jehova namandla, ngiyakhuleka kuwena Nkulunkulu onomusa, ngiyakhuleka kuwena Nkulunkulu othembekileyo. Egameni likaJesu ngibiza ukuphila. Egameni likaJesu ngibiza ithemba elisha. Egameni likaJesu ngiyanxusa ukuthi lapho silimazane khona masiphiliswe. Lapho singabonanga khona ngasolinye masibuyisane. Ngiyakhuleka, ngikhulekela ukuphila phekwegazi elichithekile, phekweyinkulumo ezingezinhle. Hlala nabantwana bakho nzulu emfihlakalo. Hlala nabantwana bakho Nkulunkulu nomusa. Hlala nabantwana bakho Nkulunkulu osithandayo. Hlala nabantwana bakho Nkulunkulu othembekileyo. Izwi lakho linamandla. Izwi lakho liyaphilisa. Izwi lakho lisenzela konke. Wena Nkulunkulu somandla ungenzeki kubantu, kuwena kuyenzeka. Sikubonile uhamba nathi endleleni, sikubonile uthembeka. Ngiyabakhulekela abafowethu nodadewethu, ngiyabanxusela amandla akho nomusa wakho. Zambule empilweni zabo uNkulunkulu nomusa ubaphilise kukona konke. Zibonakaliseke Jehova namandla nasey'mpilweni zethu. Sipha amandla usiphilise wena onguyise nendodana nomoya ocwebileyo. Amen. Thank you, dear friends. Thank you for being with us. Siyabonga. uNkulunkulu nani, uNkulunkulu anikhanyisele, uNkulunkulu aniphe konke enikuswelayo nenikudingayo. Once bonga nama-gifts enosithumelela kubona, engathi konke uNkulunkulu anganibuyisela, aniphe amandla. For those who have just joined us now, my name is Father Thembelani Ngcobo. I'm a Catholic priest in the Archdiocese of Durban in South Africa. We were talking about emotional intelligence. And so next time we'll also go back and look at other topics that are relevant in our growth. If there's anything that you'd like us to be with us and to discuss, please do share with us those topics that we can look into and then we can unpack them. Thando zami ngifisela amandla nezibusiso zikaNkulunkulu kubona konke okwenzakalayo empilweni zenu, engathi uNkulunkulu angaqhubeka ahlale nani, engathi uNkulunkulu angaqhubeka anisize, anivikele, anikhanyisele kukona konke. Siyabonga ukuba nibe nathi, siyabonga ukuba nihlale nathi. And once again, thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing these lives, for inviting people to these lives, and thank you for sharing inchumayelo that we send every day. We have a YouTube channel, Thembelani Ngcobo Official. We have a TikTok channel, Thembelani Ngcobo Official. Please do join us. We have reflections that are going on there, and we also have Instagram, Facebook for the T Inspirational Thoughts. Engathi uNkulunkulu angaba nani, anibusise njalo, anibusise ngamandla negrasiya lakhe. Egama likayise benendodana nomoya ocwebileyo. Amen. Thank you. God bless.